Hi, everyone. Welcome to English Today Journey. Don't forget to subscribe for daily English tips. Hello, my wonderful friend, and welcome back. You are in a special place where we do more than just study English. Here, we grow with English. We learn to think more clearly. We understand ourselves better. Step by step, we become stronger learners and better people. I am really happy that you are here today because we have something very important to talk about. Today, we are going to talk about a big word, metacognition. At first, it might sound complicated or difficult. But don't worry. By the end of this lesson, you will understand it clearly. You will also know how to use it in your daily life to learn better and make smarter choices. So, what does metacognition mean? Let's make it simple. Metacognition is just thinking about your thinking. That's all. It happens when you pause and watch your own thoughts. You are not only doing something, but you are also noticing how you are doing it and why you are doing it. Imagine you can step outside your mind and watch your thoughts like a movie on a screen. That moment when you notice your thoughts is called metacognition. Let's see an example. Imagine you are learning new English words. You read them again and again, but sometimes you still forget them. If you just repeat the words without thinking about how you are learning, it might not help you remember them. But if you stop and ask yourself a question like, what is the best way for me to remember these words? Should I write them down, say them out loud, or use flashcards? Then you are using metacognition. Metacognition is not only useful for learning English. It can help in many areas of life. For example, when you are solving a problem, you can ask yourself, am I thinking about this the right way? Is there a better method I can try? This helps you make better decisions and improve your thinking skills. It also helps you understand yourself. When you notice your thoughts, you might see patterns. Maybe you get frustrated when learning something new, or maybe you remember things better when you write them down. Knowing this about yourself is very powerful. It helps you plan your learning and make it easier and more effective. Here's another way to understand it. Think about your mind like a garden. If you just plant seeds and forget about them, some may grow, but some might die. If you watch your garden, notice what the plants need, and take care of them, your garden grows much better. Metacognition is like watching your garden. You pay attention to how your mind is learning, so you can help it grow. Metacognition also gives you control. You stop being a passive learner and become active. You think, I am learning this, but how can I do it better? What works for me? Every time you do this, you become a smarter learner and a stronger thinker. In short, metacognition is thinking about thinking, watching your thoughts, and planning how to learn and solve problems better. It is simple, but very powerful. The more you practice it, the better you become at learning, making decisions, and understanding yourself. So today, try this. When you learn something new, pause for a moment. Ask yourself how you are learning and how you can improve it. This small habit will help you grow step by step, not just in English, but in life. When you practice metacognition while learning English, you are learning more than just words or grammar. You are learning how you learn. And that is very powerful. Knowing how your mind works while learning can change the way you study, the way you solve problems, and even the way you live your life. Why is this so important? Many people go through life almost like robots. They do things automatically without thinking. They repeat the same habits again and again. They react quickly to situations without stopping to understand why they feel a certain way or why they act like they do. Metacognition helps you slow down. It gives you a small pause between what happens and how you react. And in that pause, you can make a choice. You can decide to respond in a better way rather than just reacting without thinking. This small pause is very powerful. It is a moment where change can start. You can take a step back and think about your feelings, your thoughts, and your decisions. You can ask yourself questions like, why do I feel this way? Is there another way I can respond? How can I solve this problem differently? That pause gives you control over your life. You're no longer completely driven by automatic habits. Instead, you start thinking and choosing consciously. This is especially useful when learning English. Maybe speaking in English makes you nervous. Maybe you feel stuck or afraid of making mistakes. These feelings are completely normal, but metacognition can help you notice them instead of letting them stop you. For example, you can pause and say, I feel nervous. Why am I nervous? What can I do to make speaking easier for me? Then you can try a better approach, like practicing with a friend, speaking slowly, or using simple sentences first. This way, you are learning not just English, but also how to learn more effectively. Metacognition helps you become a smarter learner, a more aware thinker, and a more confident person. Every time you notice your thoughts and feelings and ask yourself how to improve, you are practicing it. You are taking control of your learning instead of letting learning control you. Today, we will explore this idea more deeply. We will learn what metacognition really means in simple words. We will see examples of how it shows up in real life. We will learn practical ways to practice it every day. And most importantly, we will see how it can help you learn English faster, think more clearly, and grow as a person. The more you understand your mind, the more power you have to shape your life and make better choices. Learning metacognition is like learning to drive your own car instead of being a passenger. You can notice where you're going, slow down when needed, and change direction if you want. It gives you freedom and control. Every learner, not just English learners, can benefit from this. You can see patterns in your thinking, notice habits that are helping or hurting you, and make small changes that lead to big improvements over time. Now, let us take a closer look at the word metacognition itself. Sometimes understanding the history of a word and how it is built can help you understand it better. Meta means beyond or about, and cognition means thinking. So metacognition literally means thinking about thinking. It is noticing your own thought processes, asking questions about them, and choosing better ways to learn, act, or solve problems. To understand metacognition even better, it helps to know where the word comes from. When we look at the roots of a word, we can understand its meaning on a much deeper level. The word metacognition has two parts, meta and cognition. Let's look at each part. First, cognition. This word comes from a Latin word that means to know or to understand. Cognition is everything your mind does when it is working. It includes thinking, understanding, remembering, learning, solving problems, making decisions, understanding language, and much more. Basically, cognition is your brain in action. It is how your mind processes the world around you and helps you make sense of it. Next, let's look at meta. This comes from Greek and means beyond or above. When we combine the two parts, meta and cognition, we get metacognition, which literally means thinking about thinking or going beyond just thinking. It is when you step back and become aware of your own thoughts. At first, this might sound strange. You might be thinking, wait, you want me to think about thinking? Yes, that is exactly it. Metacognition is about noticing your own thoughts with awareness, almost like watching them from the outside. Imagine holding up a mirror to your mind and asking yourself, what is happening in my head right now? Here is a way to picture it. Imagine you are walking in a forest. When you are on the ground, you can only see the trees around you. You cannot see the entire forest or where the paths lead. Now imagine you float up in a hot air balloon. From above, you can see the trees, rivers, paths, and even where you came from and where you might go next. That higher view is like metacognition. Instead of being stuck in your thoughts, you step back and observe them from above. You get a bigger picture. Here is another example that happens while learning English. Imagine you are reading a paragraph, but your mind starts to wander. You read the same sentence several times but do not understand it. If you just keep reading without noticing what is happening, you might forget what you read or feel frustrated. But if you pause and ask yourself, why is my mind wandering? What can I do to focus better? You are practicing metacognition. You are not just reading, you are watching your mind while you read. You might decide to reread slowly, take notes, or even explain the sentence to yourself. That is the power of metacognition. It helps you notice your learning process and improve it. Metacognition also shows up in daily life beyond learning. For example, when you feel angry, instead of reacting automatically, you can pause and ask, "Why am I feeling this way? Is there a better way to respond?" That pause gives you control over your actions. It allows you to make better decisions, manage your emotions, and solve problems more effectively. In simple terms, metacognition is like having a bird's-eye view of your mind. It is stepping back, noticing your thoughts, and choosing the best way to act, learn, or respond. Every time you practice this, you become more aware, more focused, and smarter in your thinking. We have all had moments when we read something and suddenly realize we do not understand it. You might read the same sentence over and over, but your mind drifts and you do not remember anything. If you do not notice this, you might just keep reading without learning. But if you pause and say to yourself, "I am not paying attention.
I need to slow down."
That is metacognition. Metacognition is when you notice what your mind is doing and choose to adjust how you are thinking or learning. Think of it like being the coach of your own mind. The player is the part of you that is doing the task, like reading, writing, or solving a problem. The coach is the part of you that watches, reflects, and helps the player improve. A good coach does not judge or blame. Instead, the coach observes, learns, and guides. That is exactly what you do when you practice metacognition.
You do not need to be perfect at this.
You just need to be curious about how your mind works. The truth is, most people use metacognition without even realizing it. For example, if you ask yourself, "Did I really understand what I just read?" That is metacognition. If you say, "This is difficult for me. I should try a different way to learn it," that is also metacognition. Metacognition happens in small moments every day. It appears when you are learning something new, making decisions, talking to others, or solving problems. You can think of it as mental self-awareness. Just like emotional intelligence helps us notice how we feel, metacognition helps us notice how we think. It gives us the power to pause and ask ourselves helpful questions like, "Is this the best way to handle this? Am I being fair to myself right now? Why do I keep telling myself I cannot do this?" These questions allow you to guide your thoughts in a better direction. They help you make decisions, solve problems, and learn more effectively. It is important to understand that metacognition is not the same as overthinking. People often confuse the two. Overthinking is when your mind goes in circles, you worry about every little detail, and you feel stuck without moving forward. Metacognition, on the other hand, is active and purposeful thinking. You notice your thoughts, you analyze them, and you choose better ways to think or act. It is constructive and helpful, not stressful. For example, imagine you are learning English and get frustrated because you cannot remember a word. Overthinking might make you stress and think, "I am terrible at English. I will never get this." Metacognition would make you pause and think, "I am struggling with this word. What can I do differently? Maybe I can write it down, say it aloud, or use it in a sentence." You are still noticing the problem, but instead of being trapped in worry, you take action to improve. Metacognition also helps you grow as a learner and a person. The more you practice it, the more aware you become of your thoughts and habits. You start noticing patterns in how you think, recognize what strategies work best for you, and find ways to improve. It is a skill you can use in learning, decision-making, problem-solving, and even managing your emotions. In simple terms, metacognition is like having a control panel for your mind. You are not just letting thoughts happen. You are observing, guiding, and improving them. Every time you pause, notice your thinking, and make a conscious choice, you are practicing metacognition. Over time, this makes you a smarter learner, a clearer thinker, and a more confident person. Metacognition is all about checking in with yourself. It is about noticing your thoughts, understanding how your mind is working, and gently guiding it in a better direction. The good news is that metacognition is a skill anyone can develop. You do not need to be born with it. The more you practice, the more control you gain over your learning, your emotions, and your choices. You become more focused, more confident, and more intentional with what you do. Next time you feel stuck, whether you're studying, solving a problem, or just trying to calm your mind, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, what is happening in my mind right now? That small question can open the door to powerful change. That is exactly what metacognition is all about. So, what is metacognition in simple terms? Metacognition means thinking about your thinking. It may sound like a big, complicated word, but the idea is very simple. Imagine your brain is like a computer. Metacognition is the part of you that watches how the computer is working. It is your ability to notice how you learn, how you solve problems, and how you make decisions. When you use metacognition, you do not just act automatically. You pause and ask helpful questions like, how am I doing this? Is this method helping me? What could I do differently to improve? This awareness helps you learn better and make smarter choices. For example, imagine you are learning English vocabulary. You notice that reading quietly helps you remember words better than listening to them. Now you can choose to read more. That is metacognition, helping you improve your learning. Metacognition also helps you plan before you start a task. Before you begin, you might ask yourself, what steps do I need to take? What challenges might come up? While doing the task, you pay attention to how things are going and make changes if needed. After finishing, you reflect. What worked well? What did not work? This process of planning, monitoring, and reflecting is how metacognition works. It turns learning and problem-solving into a conscious, effective cycle. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you are learning to ride a bike. You could just hop on and hope for the best. But if you use metacognition, you stop and ask, where should I put my feet? How do I balance? What should I do if I start to fall? Then you try it, notice how it feels, adjust, and try again. Over time, you get better faster because you are aware of your thinking and actions. Metacognition is not only for learning English or solving problems. It works in everyday life, too. When you make decisions, talk to people, or handle emotions, you can notice what your mind is doing and guide it in a helpful direction. It gives you control, focus, and confidence. In short, metacognition is like being the coach of your own mind. The player is the part of you doing the task, and the coach is the part that observes, reflects, and guides. With practice, anyone can become a skilled coach for their own thinking. It is simple, but it is powerful. Why is metacognition so important? Because it makes learning much more effective. When you understand how your mind works, you can notice mistakes, improve your skills, and gain confidence. You're no longer just following instructions or going through the motions. Instead, you take charge of your learning and even your life. Metacognition is not something magical that only some people have. It is a skill that grows with practice. Every time you ask yourself thoughtful questions, try new ways to learn, and reflect on your experiences, you train your mind to think more clearly and wisely. Over time, you will see metacognition helping you in many areas of life. It is useful not only for learning English, but also for solving problems, making decisions, and facing challenges with calm and clarity. In simple words, metacognition is like being your own coach. The player is the part of you that is doing the task, reading, writing, or practicing English. The coach is the part of you that watches, reflects, and guides the player. The coach notices what is working, what is not, and suggests better ways to improve. When you practice metacognition, you are training your inner coach. Once you start doing this, you will notice that learning becomes easier and more enjoyable. You can make learning more efficient and even fun. You stop wasting time on methods that do not work and start using strategies that help you remember and understand better. You might be thinking, this sounds interesting, but why does it matter for me? How does metacognition actually help in real life? That is a very good question. The answer is simple. Metacognition is one of the most powerful skills you can have for learning, making smart decisions, and growing as a person. It is not just for students, teachers, or scientists. Everyone can benefit from it every single day. Think about a situation you might know. Have you ever studied very hard for a test, only to realize later that you remembered very little? Maybe you read the same page over and over, but it didn't stick. Or perhaps you have tried to improve your English. You listened to podcasts, read books, practiced new words, but your speaking still did not improve as much as you hoped. These are moments when metacognition could have made a difference. With metacognition, you pause and ask yourself questions. Am I learning this the best way? Should I try a different method? What can I do to remember better? This is not about criticizing yourself. It is about being aware, making small changes, and guiding your learning more effectively. Over time, this small habit leads to big improvements. Metacognition also helps beyond learning. It helps you make better decisions, understand your emotions, and handle challenges more calmly. You notice your thoughts, reflect on them, and then choose the best action. That is why it is such a powerful life skill. In short, metacognition is thinking about your thinking, noticing your habits, and guiding yourself toward better learning, better decisions, and more confidence. When you practice it regularly, it changes the way you approach life. You become more aware, more intentional, and more successful in everything you do. Metacognition is especially helpful in moments when learning feels hard or frustrating. Imagine you are trying to improve your English, but no matter how much you practice, it does not seem to stick. Maybe you are studying vocabulary over and over, but still forget words. Metacognition helps in these moments. Instead of just working harder, you pause and ask yourself, is the way I am learning actually helping me? When you ask this question, you can notice what works and what is not. For example, you might discover that you remember new words better when you use them in real conversations or when you teach them to someone else. Once you notice this, you can adjust your method and focus on strategies that actually help. This is the power of metacognition. It saves you time, energy, and frustration. Metacognition is also very useful in stressful situations. For example, think about speaking in public or giving a presentation. Many people feel nervous before speaking, even in their own language. When you use metacognition, you notice the thoughts that make you anxious. You may think, what if I make a mistake? Or what if people judge me? By noticing these thoughts, you can question them. Ask yourself, is that really true? What is the worst that could happen? Simply observing your thoughts like this begins to calm your mind. You gain control over your reactions, instead of letting fear or anxiety take over. As a result, you perform better because your mind is focused and clear. Metacognition also helps in emotional situations and conflicts. We all experience disagreements or hurt feelings sometimes. Maybe you argue with a friend, feel misunderstood by your family, or face a difficult conversation at work. In those moments, it is easy to react immediately, say something you later regret, or shut down completely. Metacognition gives you space to pause. It allows you to ask, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? What is the best way to respond? Even a brief moment of reflection can completely change the outcome. It turns automatic reactions into thoughtful responses. You can choose kinder words, stay calm, and understand your emotions more clearly. In other words, metacognition is the foundation of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand your feelings, manage your reactions, and respond thoughtfully. And metacognition is the first step. By noticing your thoughts, understanding your mind, and guiding it, you gain control over your learning, your emotions, and your actions. The best part is that anyone can practice metacognition. You do not need to be perfect or have a special talent. All you need is curiosity and awareness. Each time you notice your thoughts, ask questions, and make small adjustments, you strengthen your mind. You become more confident, focused, and intentional in everything you do, whether learning English, giving a presentation, or handling difficult situations in life. In simple terms, metacognition is like being the coach of your own mind. You are both the player, doing the task, and the coach, watching, reflecting, and guiding. With practice, you can handle challenges more calmly, make better decisions, and respond to situations thoughtfully instead of reacting automatically. Metacognition is not just a learning tool, it is a life skill. It helps you improve your thinking, manage your emotions, and make smarter choices every day. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. You are training yourself to be aware, intentional, and confident in all areas of life. Metacognition is a powerful skill that gives you control over your mind instead of letting your thoughts control you. It is one of the most valuable skills you can develop, not just for learning, but for relationships, personal growth, and life in general. Have you ever noticed that your own thoughts sometimes get in your way? Maybe you tell yourself, "I cannot do this," or "I am not good enough," or "I always fail." These thoughts feel true, but often they are just old habits in your mind. They are beliefs you learned in the past that keep repeating. If you do not notice them, you may start believing them automatically. This is where metacognition comes in. Metacognition is thinking about your thinking. It helps you notice these repeated thoughts and ask, "Is this really true?" This simple question can completely change how you think. It opens the door to a new way of living and learning. Why is metacognition important? Because it helps you learn better, grow faster, and make smarter choices. It gives you confidence and awareness. It helps you feel more in control of your life. Without metacognition, you may repeat the same mistakes over and over, not because you are lazy or not smart, but because you are not paying attention to your thoughts and why you think the way you do. When you practice metacognition, you start to notice things you never noticed before. You see your strengths and weaknesses clearly. You become aware of your habits, fears, and automatic reactions. Instead of living life on autopilot, you start living with purpose. You stop just moving through life and start growing through life. The best part is that anyone can practice metacognition. You do not need anything special. All it takes is a few quiet moments and the courage to ask yourself simple questions such as, "How did I do today? What could I have done differently? What was I thinking when I made that choice?" Even small questions like these can make a big difference. They help you reflect on your actions, your thoughts, and your emotions. Over time, this habit rewires your mind to notice patterns, make better decisions, and handle challenges more calmly. Metacognition also helps with learning. For example, if you notice that reading quietly helps you understand new words better than listening, you can adjust your study method. If you feel nervous before speaking, you can pause, notice your thoughts, and choose a calmer, more confident response. Metacognition turns automatic reactions into thoughtful, intentional actions. In simple terms, metacognition is like being your own coach. You are both the player, doing the task, and the coach, observing, reflecting, and guiding. It is not about being perfect, it is about being aware. Each time you notice your thoughts, question them, and adjust, you practice metacognition. Each time you do this, you grow a little more. By practicing metacognition regularly, you start to live with awareness. You notice your habits, your fears, and your strengths. You make better decisions, improve your learning, and respond more thoughtfully in life. Over time, you become a more confident, focused, and intentional person. Metacognition is simple, but it is powerful. It gives you control over your mind, your learning, and your life. It is a skill anyone can develop, and the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. All it takes is a few moments of reflection and the willingness to ask yourself simple, honest questions. That is the heart of metacognition. Metacognition is not just for school or studying. It is useful in everyday life, too. It helps you with daily decisions, emotions, and habits. For example, think about procrastination. Sometimes you know you should do something simple, like replying to a message, studying, or cleaning, but instead, you scroll on your phone or watch videos. That is procrastination. With metacognition, you can pause and ask yourself, why am I avoiding this task? Maybe you feel bored. Maybe you are nervous about doing it perfectly. Often, procrastination is not about being lazy. It is about fear of making mistakes or fear of not being perfect. Metacognition helps you notice this. When you see it, you can change it. You can remind yourself, it is okay if it is not perfect. Doing something is better than doing nothing. This simple awareness helps you act instead of avoiding tasks. Metacognition also helps with overthinking. Overthinking happens when you replay a problem or a situation in your mind over and over. You worry about what might happen or what others think. Metacognition helps you notice when this is happening. You can pause and ask yourself, is this thought helping me? Then you can calm your mind instead of letting worry take over. In this way, metacognition is like turning on a light in your mind. Suddenly, you see things more clearly. You act more wisely. You grow more deeply. Once you start practicing it, you will wonder how you ever lived without it. Have you ever been in bed at night thinking about something that happened earlier in the day? Maybe you said something awkward or worry about what someone thinks of you. Your mind runs in all directions, asking many what-if questions. What if they didn't understand me? What if I made a mistake? What if I looked silly? Everyone experiences this sometimes. This is a perfect moment to use metacognition. Remember, metacognition means thinking about your thinking. You can pause and ask yourself, is this thought helping me? If the thought only makes you anxious or stuck, you can choose to redirect it. You can remind yourself of what actually matters and focus on solutions instead of worries. Metacognition also helps you understand your habits. For instance, if you notice you check your phone too often, you can ask, why am I doing this? Is it helping me? You may discover patterns in your thinking and behavior that were hidden before. Once you notice them, you can make changes. In short, metacognition helps you stop procrastinating by understanding your fears. Stop overthinking by noticing unhelpful thoughts. Make better decisions by observing your habits. Calm your mind by asking simple, guiding questions. Metacognition is like having a coach inside your mind. You are the player, but the coach observes, reflects, and guides. With practice, you become more aware of your thoughts, your habits, and your emotions. You respond thoughtfully instead of reacting automatically. The more you use metacognition, the more you see clearly, act wisely, and grow deeply. It helps you make your life smoother, your learning easier, and your daily decisions smarter. Once you start practicing it, you will wonder how you ever lived without it. Sometimes, our thoughts can make us feel worse and do not help solve anything. In moments like this, metacognition can help you step back. You can ask yourself, is this thought helping me, or is it just making me worried? If the thought is unhelpful, it is okay to let it go. You can change your thinking by saying something like, I did my best and that is enough. One moment does not decide who I am. This kind of self-awareness does not stop overthinking completely, but it helps you pause before worry takes over. You notice the spiral of thoughts and have the power to redirect your mind towards something more useful. Let me share a personal story that shows how powerful metacognition can be. A while ago, I was working on a podcast episode. I wanted it to be helpful, easy to understand, and inspiring. I wrote some ideas but kept deleting and rewriting them. I kept thinking, this is not good enough.
This does not sound right.
It must be perfect. Hours passed, and I realized I was no longer making progress. I was stuck trying to make it perfect. At that moment, I stopped and asked myself, why am I being so hard on myself? The answer was simple. I was afraid people would not like it. Just saying this thought out loud in my mind made me feel lighter. I reminded myself that it is okay to improve as I go, but it is also okay to start even if it is not perfect. Progress is more important than perfection. That small change in thinking helped me finish the episode. In the end, I felt proud, even though it was not 100% perfect. Metacognition also helps when building new habits. Maybe you want to wake up early, go to the gym, or study English every day. At first, you feel excited, but then life gets busy. You skip one day, then another, and soon the habit is gone. You may feel frustrated or disappointed. Instead of giving up, use metacognition. Ask yourself, what stopped me from being consistent? Maybe you were tired. Maybe your plan was too difficult. Maybe you needed reminders or support. The goal is not to blame yourself, but to understand yourself. Once you understand, you can adjust your plan. Maybe you study in the morning instead of at night. Maybe you start with just 10 minutes instead of 1 hour. Small, thoughtful changes make habits easier to keep. Metacognition is also useful when facing challenges or new tasks. You can pause, notice your thoughts, and ask, am I thinking in a way that helps me move forward, or is my mind holding me back? By observing your thoughts, you gain clarity, calm, and control. You can make choices that help you learn, grow, and act instead of being stuck. In short, metacognition is about watching your mind like a coach watches a player. You are the player doing the task, and you are also the coach noticing how you think, reflecting on it, and guiding yourself to do better. It helps you handle perfectionism, build habits, manage emotions, and stop overthinking. With regular practice, it becomes natural to pause, reflect, and take action in a smarter, calmer way. Consistency is a key part of practicing metacognition, but it does not mean being perfect. Being consistent means coming back again and again, even if you miss a day. You do not have to be flawless. You just need to keep returning to the habit. That is what matters most. One very helpful way to practice metacognition in daily life is journaling. Journaling is simply writing about your day, your feelings, and your thoughts. You do not need to be a professional writer. Anyone can do it. When you write, you begin to notice patterns in your thinking and behavior. You start to see what makes you feel stressed and what gives you energy. You begin to understand whether your mindset is mostly positive or negative. Journaling also gives you the chance to ask yourself helpful questions. For example, what went well today? What do I want to do differently tomorrow? Which thoughts helped me today, and which thoughts held me back? Even just 5 minutes of writing each day can help you understand yourself much better. So, practicing metacognition in daily life does not mean thinking too much or expecting perfection. It means building a habit of self-awareness. It means learning about your mind so that you can make better choices. It means being kind to yourself and growing a little every day. You do not need anything special to start. All you need is a quiet moment and an open mind. When you practice noticing your thoughts, it is like learning to use a powerful tool for your mind. You can stop and look at what you are thinking and then decide which thoughts to keep and which to change. You can guide your mind in a calmer, healthier way. Metacognition helps with many parts of life. It can help you deal with procrastination, overthinking, perfectionism, or planning your day. Whenever you feel stuck, you can pause, notice your thoughts, and choose a better way forward. This habit of pausing and reflecting gives you clarity, calm, and control. Real growth does not happen in a single day. It happens slowly, step by step, as you become more aware of your inner world. You do not need to change everything at once. Each day, you can grow a little by noticing your thoughts, reflecting on them, and making small improvements. Over time, these small steps lead to big changes in your life, your thinking, and your learning. Now that we have explored how metacognition works in daily life, let's look more closely at its two main parts. We have talked about what metacognition is and why it is helpful. The next step is to understand its structure in a simple way. Understanding these two parts helps you practice metacognition more easily and see how it works in your mind. The first part is planning and thinking ahead. This means noticing what you are about to do and asking questions like, what is my goal? What steps do I need to take? What challenges might come up? Planning helps you prepare and gives you a roadmap before you start any task. The second part is monitoring and reflecting. This means paying attention while you're doing something and asking, how is it going? What is working? What is not working? What can I change to do better? After the task, you can reflect on what you learned and how you can improve next time. These two parts, planning ahead and reflecting afterward, are the heart of metacognition. When you practice them, you become aware of your mind in action. You can make better decisions, learn more effectively, and handle challenges with more calm and confidence. Metacognition has two main parts, and their names might sound complicated at first: metacognitive knowledge and metacognitive regulation. But don't worry. The ideas behind them are simple, and you already use both every day, even if you didn't know the names. The first part is metacognitive knowledge. This is knowing how your own mind works. It is about understanding yourself as a learner and thinker. For example, it means knowing what helps you learn best and what makes learning harder for you. It includes understanding which strategies work for you. Maybe you learn better when you say things out loud instead of reading silently. Maybe you notice that you cannot focus well when you are tired or stressed. Maybe you remember new English words better when you use them in real sentences instead of memorizing a list. Metacognitive knowledge is basically self-awareness about your thinking and learning. It helps you learn smarter, not harder. For example, imagine you want to learn 20 new English words. A person with good metacognitive knowledge might think, how do I remember new words best? They might realize, I remember better when I group the words into topics like food, travel, or work. Or, I remember better when I make a sentence with each word because I see how it is used in real life. That is metacognitive knowledge. It is knowing yourself and your best learning methods. The second part is metacognitive regulation. This is about managing your thinking and controlling your learning. It is active. Metacognitive regulation helps you use what you know about yourself to stay on track. It includes planning before a task, checking if your method is working, and changing your plan if something is not working. In short, it is about being in charge of your learning instead of letting your thoughts run on autopilot. Let's go back to the example of learning 20 English words. First, you decide on a method to learn the words, like writing a sentence for each word. That decision comes from your metacognitive knowledge. You know what works best for you. Then, as you start learning, you pay attention and ask yourself, is this method helping me remember the words? If the answer is yes, you continue. If not, you try a different approach, like making flashcards or saying the words out loud. That process of checking and adjusting is metacognitive regulation. Metacognitive regulation also includes reflecting after a task. For example, after learning your words, you can ask, which words did I remember easily? Which ones were hard? What method worked best? What can I do differently next time? This reflection lets you improve your learning for the future. In simple words, metacognitive knowledge is about knowing yourself and your learning style, while metacognitive regulation is about using that knowledge to plan, monitor, and adjust your learning. Together, these two parts make your thinking and learning more powerful. They help you stay organized, learn faster, and solve problems more effectively. When you practice both, you are not just learning English words or studying a topic. You are learning how to learn, how to guide your mind, and how to make better decisions. You are becoming smarter about your thinking. This is the heart of metacognition, and it is a skill that anyone can develop with practice. When you study or learn something new, it is important to ask yourself questions like, am I remembering the words? Is this method working? Do I need to try something different? These questions are part of metacognitive regulation, which means adjusting and managing your thinking while you learn. For example, if you are learning new English words, you might first try reading sentences out loud. Then you notice you still forget some words. Instead of getting frustrated, you pause and think, maybe I should practice with a friend. Maybe I should try flashcards. Maybe I should record myself saying the words. That moment when you stop, reflect, and change your approach is exactly what metacognitive regulation is. You are not just repeating a task automatically. You are actively guiding your mind to work better. Think of it like driving a car. When you drive, you plan your route first. Then you pay attention to the road as you go. If something changes, like traffic or a stop sign, you adjust by turning, slowing down, or taking another route. Learning with metacognition is the same. You plan, watch your thoughts, and adjust your strategies if needed. You guide your mind instead of letting it wander. When you combine metacognitive knowledge, knowing how your mind works, with metacognitive regulation, guiding your thinking, you become more confident, calm, and successful. You're no longer living on automatic mode, just reacting to events. Instead, you choose how to think and act, and that gives you real control over your learning and life. Metacognition is not only useful for studying English. You can use it in everyday life too. For instance, when you plan your day, you can consider your mind's natural rhythms. If you think more clearly in the morning, you might do your hardest tasks then. If you know that after a long study session your focus drops, you can schedule short breaks to stay fresh and alert. These small adjustments make a big difference. Even small daily decisions can benefit from metacognition. For example, when doing chores, you might notice that you procrastinate in the evening because you feel tired. Instead of just forcing yourself, you can plan to do those tasks in the morning when you have more energy. Or when facing a problem at work or school, you can pause and ask yourself, am I approaching this the best way? Is my strategy working? This pause and reflection lets you make better decisions and avoid repeated mistakes. When you practice metacognition regularly, it becomes a habit. You constantly check in with yourself, notice how your mind works, and adjust your approach. You stop reacting automatically and start acting intentionally. This gives you clarity, control, and confidence. You can see what works and what is not, and you can change your methods to improve your results. Over time, these small, thoughtful adjustments add up. You become a smarter learner, a more aware thinker, and a more confident person. Learning becomes easier, more efficient, and even more enjoyable. You gain the power to shape not only your studies but also your daily life. Metacognition is not magic, it is practice, awareness, and simple, consistent reflection. The more you do it, the stronger your mind becomes. Another important part of metacognitive regulation is self-monitoring. This means paying attention to yourself while you are doing something. For example, imagine you are having a conversation in English and suddenly you notice, I keep using the same basic phrases over and over. Recognizing this gives you the chance to improve. You might try a new phrase you recently learned, or slow down so you can think more clearly. After the conversation is over, you can reflect on your performance. You can ask yourself questions like, what did I do well? What could I do better next time? This reflection helps you grow even after the moment has passed. It is like giving yourself a mini feedback session. You notice your strengths, see where you can improve, and think about ways to do better next time. Metacognitive regulation also includes evaluating your results. For example, you might try a new way of learning English for a week. You decide to watch a short English video every day and then write a brief summary. After a few days, you stop and ask yourself, is this helping me? Am I remembering more? Do I feel more confident? If the answer is yes, you continue with the method. If the answer is no, you do not blame yourself. Instead, you make adjustments. Maybe the videos are too difficult. Maybe you need subtitles. Maybe it would help to watch the same video multiple times instead of different videos each day. The point is not to find a perfect strategy immediately. The point is to stay aware, flexible, and willing to adjust. This adaptability is at the heart of metacognitive regulation. To put it simply, metacognitive knowledge is what you know about how your mind works, while metacognitive regulation is how you use that knowledge to guide your thinking and actions. First, you understand yourself. Then, you use that understanding to make smarter choices. When you use these two skills together, you become the driver of your own mind. You are not living on automatic mode, repeating habits without thinking. Instead, you choose your path, adjust your pace when needed, and take control of your own growth. You decide when to focus, when to pause, and when to try a new approach. The best part is that anyone can develop this skill. You do not need to be a genius, a perfect student, or naturally talented. Metacognition is a learnable skill, and the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Over time, you notice yourself becoming more aware, more confident, and more capable of handling challenges in life and learning. Metacognition is not about perfection. It is about awareness, reflection, and adaptation. It helps you avoid repeated mistakes, saves time, and reduces frustration. Instead of feeling stuck or overwhelmed, you learn to pause, think, and choose the best next step. You see your mind as a tool you can guide, rather than a machine running on autopilot. Even small practices, like noticing when you are stuck on a task, evaluating your study methods, or reflecting on a conversation, make a big difference. Step by step, you build a habit of self-awareness. You grow smarter, calmer, and more intentional in your learning and life. Metacognition is truly practical, flexible, and for everyone. Whether you're learning English, solving problems, planning your day, or managing your emotions, these skills give you clarity, control, and confidence. You are not just living. You are actively shaping your mind and your life. You do not need to be a psychologist or an expert to practice metacognition. All you need is a willingness to ask simple, thoughtful questions about your thinking and learning. Questions like, what works for me? What doesn't work? What can I do differently next time? The more you practice asking yourself these questions, the easier it becomes. Over time, metacognition becomes a natural part of your daily thinking, almost like a habit you do without effort. Whenever you study, face a challenge, or try to solve a problem, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what do I already know about how I think and learn? Then use that knowledge to guide yourself. That is the real power of metacognition. It turns your thinking into a tool you can control, instead of letting your mind run on autopilot. Even though metacognition is powerful, it is not always easy to use. There are barriers that can make it difficult, and being aware of these obstacles is important. When you understand them, you can find ways to overcome them. One common barrier is forgetting to pause. In the middle of a task, a conversation, or a stressful situation, it is easy to act automatically without thinking. Another barrier is avoiding self-reflection because it can feel uncomfortable to look at mistakes or challenges. Strong emotions like stress, fear, or frustration can also block your ability to think clearly and use metacognition. Let's look at an example. Imagine you are speaking English with someone and you suddenly feel nervous. Maybe your heart races, your hands feel sweaty, or your mind goes blank. Instead of ignoring these feelings, use metacognition. Ask yourself quietly, why am I feeling nervous? What am I worried about? You might realize that you are afraid of making mistakes, that your grammar might not be perfect, or that someone will judge you. Once you notice this, you can pause, take a slow breath, and relax a little. You do not need to stop talking or run away. You can continue calmly, while staying aware of your thoughts and emotions. After the conversation, take a few moments to reflect. Ask yourself, what went well? What did I do right? What can I try again next time? What can I improve? This simple reflection turns ordinary experiences into learning opportunities. Every small pause and question adds up over time, helping you grow in confidence, understanding, and control. Metacognition is practical for everyday life, not just for studying. You can use it to manage stress, handle mistakes, improve habits, and make better decisions. Even small actions, like noticing your emotions, asking why you procrastinate, or reflecting on a conversation, build your awareness and help you act more thoughtfully. It teaches you to stop reacting automatically and start choosing how you think and respond. By practicing metacognition regularly, you start to see patterns in your thinking. You notice what helps you learn, what slows you down, and what triggers negative emotions. You begin to guide your mind like a coach guides a player, observing, reflecting, and making adjustments to improve. Over time, these small moments of reflection and awareness turn into big improvements in learning, problem solving, and personal growth. The key idea is simple. Metacognition is about pausing, noticing, reflecting, and adjusting. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference. It helps you feel calmer, make smarter decisions, and learn more effectively. It allows you to handle challenges with confidence instead of fear, to plan your actions instead of reacting blindly, and to grow steadily, step by step, by paying attention to your own mind. Life does not always go the way we want. Sometimes we fail a test, make a mistake at work, or have a hard day at school. Feeling upset, frustrated, or disappointed is normal. But instead of only reacting with emotion, you can use metacognition to understand what happened and learn from it. Ask yourself questions like, what part of this situation did not go well? What was in my control? What can I do differently next time? These questions cannot change the past, but they can help you prepare for a better future. That is the real value of thinking about your thinking. Every experience, even a difficult one, becomes a chance to grow. Another helpful habit is planning. Before starting a task, whether it is studying, writing an email, or having an important conversation, take a moment to think. Ask yourself, what is my goal? What steps should I take? What might distract or confuse me? Starting with a clear plan helps you work more effectively. After you finish, reflect again. Did I follow my plan? What can I change next time? By planning and reflecting, you slowly build better habits that improve learning, work, and daily life. It is important to remember that metacognition does not mean being perfect. You do not need to control every thought or avoid making mistakes. Instead, it is about noticing your thoughts, emotions, and actions so you can choose better ways to act and learn. Be honest with yourself, but not harsh. Curiosity is key. If something does not work, simply notice it and ask, why didn't this work? How can I improve? Noticing itself is already a small success. Every time you pause, ask a question, or make a small adjustment, you are practicing metacognition. Over time, these small moments add up and lead to real progress. You do not have to change everything at once. Even a small start is enough to build a habit. Choose one moment today. Think about something you did, ask yourself one helpful question, or write a short sentence about what you learned. That is enough to begin. Metacognition is not a switch you turn on. It is a habit you build gradually, day by day. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. The goal is not to be perfect or to control every thought. The goal is to pay attention, learn about yourself, and make better choices in your learning, work, and life. Even small steps matter. Each pause, each reflection, each little adjustment is a victory. Slowly, you train your mind to notice patterns, manage distractions, understand your feelings, and improve your thinking. Over time, this daily habit makes learning easier, decisions clearer, and life more intentional. You start to act with awareness instead of moving on autopilot. So, if you do not know where to begin, start with just one small action today. Think about one thing you did, ask yourself a helpful question, and note one insight. That is how metacognition begins. Step by step, moment by moment, you develop the habit of watching your mind, learning from experience, and guiding yourself toward better choices. Over time, these small actions grow into lasting growth, confidence, and understanding, helping you live a more thoughtful, calm, and purposeful life. When you practice metacognition, it becomes easier and more natural over time. The more you notice your thoughts and guide your thinking, the more automatic it feels. Remember, you are not just learning skills, you are learning to guide yourself. You are like your own coach, watching how you think, noticing what works, and adjusting what is not. This skill gives you power to shape your future. You learn to stay calm in stressful moments, gain confidence in your choices, and keep going even when things feel hard. Metacognition is not only for studying or learning English. It is for life. It helps you grow stronger, kinder, and wiser every day. It helps you make better decisions, handle emotions more calmly, and learn from experiences instead of just reacting automatically. That is why it matters so much. Let us slow down for a moment and take a deep breath. We've been exploring a big idea, metacognition. At its core, metacognition is understanding your own mind and paying attention to your thoughts. It means you are not just thinking, you are also watching your thinking from the outside. You notice what is happening in your mind and learn how to guide it. Just by reading this, you are already practicing metacognition. You made the choice to learn about your mind. That choice itself shows that you are growing. The first step to improving at anything is simply noticing and paying attention. We started by asking, what does metacognition mean? It means thinking about your thinking. It means asking yourself, what am I thinking right now? Why am I thinking this? Is this thought helping me? Could I do something in a better way? That small pause is powerful. It gives you control over your mind instead of acting automatically. Metacognition helps you learn better because you begin to understand how you learn best. When you know what works for you, you stop wasting time following someone else's method that might not help you. You create your own way to learn, your own strategy. Confidence grows from knowing yourself, not from being perfect. You learn to adjust, improve, and keep moving forward. Metacognition also helps with emotions and challenges. When you feel nervous, frustrated, or stuck, noticing your thoughts gives you a choice. Instead of reacting with fear or frustration, you can pause, ask questions, and decide how to respond. Over time, this builds resilience, calmness, and clarity. You learn to handle life with more awareness and control. Every small step counts. Every time you pause and reflect, every time you notice your thoughts, every time you ask yourself a helpful question, you are practicing metacognition. Over days, weeks, and months, these small moments add up to real growth. You stop living life on autopilot. You start making thoughtful choices and guiding your own learning, your own habits, and your own emotions. So, start small. Choose one moment today to think about something you did. Ask yourself one question. What did I do well? What could I do better next time? That is all it takes to begin. Metacognition is not a switch you turn on. It is a habit you build little by little. The more you practice, the more naturally it becomes part of your daily life. By noticing, reflecting, and adjusting your thinking, you become the driver of your own mind. You gain control, confidence, and clarity. You learn to keep moving forward, even when life feels hard. You learn to act with purpose and kindness, to grow a little every day. This is the real power of metacognition, and it is a skill anyone can develop. We also talked about challenges that make metacognition harder. Things like fear of failure, self-doubt, and wanting to be perfect. Everyone feels these things sometimes. You are not alone. But metacognition can help you face these feelings. Instead of letting fear stop you, you can say to yourself, I feel afraid, but I can still try. That is real strength. That is resilience. Then we explored simple ways to practice metacognition every day. You do not need to make big changes all at once. You can start small. For example, you can pause for a few minutes and reflect on what you are doing. You can ask yourself helpful questions like, is this working? What can I do differently? What went well? You can write one short note about what you learned after finishing a task. You can think ahead before starting something and check your results after completing it. These are small habits, but they make a big difference. You do not need to change your whole life at once. Start with one moment, one thought, one question. That is enough to begin. Each small step adds up over time. Every time you notice your thinking, reflect, or adjust, you are practicing metacognition. Metacognition is not just about studying or learning faster. It is also about becoming a stronger and wiser person. When you understand your thoughts, you understand yourself better. You become calmer and more confident. You make choices with care instead of reacting without thinking. You trust yourself because you know yourself. You learn to respond to situations with clarity instead of just reacting automatically. Metacognition helps you grow step by step every day. It builds a better version of you, a version who learns with purpose, acts with awareness, and moves forward with confidence. And remember, you do not have to be perfect. You only need to begin one thought at a time, one moment at a time. Before we finish, take a moment to reflect. Here are a few gentle questions you can carry with you. You do not need to answer them immediately. Just let them sit in your mind and grow over time. When was the last time I truly noticed my thinking? How do I usually react to my thoughts and emotions? Are my thoughts helping me, or are they holding me back? What small change could I make today to think or act in a better way? Even thinking about these questions a little bit each day is practicing metacognition. Over time, these small moments of awareness will grow into real progress. You will notice that your mind feels clearer, your choices become wiser, and your life feels more intentional. Metacognition is a habit you build slowly, step by step. It is not about doing everything perfectly. It is about noticing, reflecting, and adjusting. It is about being curious about your mind and being kind to yourself when things do not go as planned. Every time you pause and reflect, every time you ask a helpful question, and every time you make a small change, you are practicing the most powerful skill you have for learning, growth, and life. Start small, stay consistent, and remember, you are your own coach. You can guide your mind, grow through life, and become the person you want to be, one thought at a time, one day at a time. Think for a moment about what you learned today. What did you discover about your mind? Ask yourself, what is one small change I can start today? It does not have to be big. Something tiny and simple can help you think more clearly and kindly. Maybe you can slow down when you feel stressed. Maybe you can write one short sentence in a journal before sleep. Maybe you can pause and ask yourself, is this thought helping me right now? You do not need to do anything huge. Small, honest changes add up over time and lead to real growth. After this moment, take a few minutes to reflect. You might talk to yourself quietly or write down your thoughts. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? What made me see things differently? What do I want to understand more deeply? Writing or speaking about your thoughts helps you see them more clearly. That is where real growth begins, not just by listening, but by thinking, reflecting, and using what you learn. I want to thank you from the heart for your time and attention. Thank you for being open and curious. These ideas are not always simple, but you stayed here and explored them. That shows strength and commitment to yourself and your future. I hope this journey helped you feel more aware of your mind, more confident in your thinking, and more connected to your own learning path. If anything here felt helpful, remember you can always return to these ideas.
You can read this again.
You can share it with someone who might need support too. Metacognition is not just for learning a language or studying. It is for life. By noticing your thoughts, pausing, and reflecting, you are learning how to guide your mind. You are practicing a skill that helps you stay calm, make better choices, and grow stronger every day. Take care of your thoughts. Take care of your mind. Stay curious and continue practicing awareness of your thinking. Every small step counts. Every pause, every reflection, every small change is progress. Even if it feels tiny, you are moving forward. You are learning to guide your mind, not be controlled by it. Remember, real growth happens slowly.
One moment at a time. One thought at a time. One small step at a time.
And over time, these small steps build a life of clarity, confidence, and purpose. You are doing better than you realize. Keep practicing, keep noticing, and keep growing. You are your own coach. You can shape your mind and your life. And every small choice you make to pause, reflect, and adjust is proof that you are learning and growing. Celebrate that. Appreciate your efforts. And remember, you are moving forward one step at a time, and that is enough.